2 days later, deep within the Black Death Alliance's fortress basement, Yeon-Myeong led his men into the heart of the enemy's stronghold. The air was thick with the scent of dust and age, the dim light from their lanterns casting long shadows over the stone walls. As they ventured further into the depths, they came upon a sight that left even the most seasoned warriors speechless. An enormous pile of treasure. Gold coins, precious jewels, and priceless artifacts were heaped in mounds, an impressive accumulation of wealth that seemed almost surreal. Among them, Won Jin could barely contain his astonishment. His eyes widened at the sight, taking in the scale of the treasure trove. The sheer volume of wealth that had been hidden away in this forgotten corner of the fortress was staggering. It was clear now why the Black Death Alliance had never sought to expand beyond Sichuan. With this much treasure, they could survive and thrive for decades, perhaps even centuries, without needing to venture further. The revelation stunned him, and he couldn't help but marvel at the foresight, or perhaps the madness, that had led Gil-jun, the former leader, to amass such riches. Yeon-Myeong, standing at the forefront, shared a similar realization as he observed the vast accumulation. His mind began to piece together the strategy behind it all. Gil-jun had ruled over the unorthodox sects with an iron fist, commanding a position of immense power, yet he had never sought to expand beyond Sichuan. Instead, he had remained seated on his throne of gold, drawing followers not with promises of land or power, but with the allure of his teachings. It was clear to Yeon-Myeong that Gil-jun had not amassed this wealth out of greed, but rather out of necessity. Too many had come seeking his martial arts skills, and in exchange, treasure had become the price of entry, a form of collateral to ensure commitment. It was a shrewd system, one that allowed Gil-jun to maintain control and power without ever needing to venture beyond his stronghold. Turning to his trusted subordinate, Yeon-Myeong gave his orders with a calm but authoritative tone. He knew what needed to be done. This treasure, now rightfully under his command, would be transported back to the main family, a valuable resource for the future. Won Jin, ever loyal, acknowledged the task with a firm nod, fully understanding the gravity of the responsibility entrusted to him. As Yeon-Myeong ventured deeper into the vault, he stumbled upon a vast, hidden chamber. This part of the basement was far more spacious than the treasure-filled area, and it was lined with towering shelves that stretched up to the ceiling. However, to his surprise, there was no sign of books or scrolls on any of the shelves. Instead, everything appeared to be meticulously arranged, an unsettling void of knowledge. His gaze lingered on the eerie emptiness, and curiosity drove him forward. A particular object caught his attention, some books resting on one of the shelves. Yeon-Myeong's fingers brushed lightly against the cover, a sense of intrigue stirring within him. It was a rare moment of discovery in a place that had already revealed so many secrets. With a faint murmur to himself, he wondered aloud if these could be Gil-jun's personal writings, some remnant of the mind that had ruled the Black Death Alliance. He opened the cover, and as his eyes scanned the words, the chilling weight of the writing began to sink in. The first line caught him immediately, a cold philosophy that seemed to guide the hand of the once great leader of the Black Death Alliance. Life is a cycle of debts and repayments, Yeon-Myeong read aloud silently in his mind, the words invoking a sense of inevitability. As he continued, it became clear that Gil-jun's beliefs had shaped his actions in ways that were darker than Yeon-Myeong had imagined. The writing continued, recounting a brutal philosophy of vengeance. Gil-jun's life had been marked by a relentless pursuit of justice, driven by a code that demanded repayment of kindness twice over, but grudges tenfold. The words etched into the page felt like a manifesto of vengeance, a testament to a lifetime of bitterness and retribution. Yeon-Myeong's eyes narrowed as he read on, absorbing the harsh truth of Gil-jun's actions. Gil-jun's claim that he had destroyed the Azure Fortress sect and all those who had wronged his father figure left Yeon-Myeong with a bitter taste. His vengeance had gone beyond mere retaliation. It had been a calculated effort to ensure the obliteration of an entire martial arts lineage. Not only had Gil-jun destroyed their techniques, but he had also gone further to study them, learning how to counter each art, to humiliate those who once wielded it. The final words etched into the page, all counter-techniques to those arts have been compiled here, resonated deeply with Yeon-Myeong. It was clear that Gil-jun's vendetta had been meticulous and unforgiving, a cold, calculated plan to dismantle everything the Azure Fortress sect had built. As Yeon-Myeong finished reading the content of the book, a quiet murmur escaped his lips, his voice tinged with disbelief. He could hardly comprehend the implications of what he had just discovered. The martial arts techniques compiled within these pages were extraordinary, but the fact that they had been dismantled and reduced to just a few volumes left him in awe. This place, which had once been the heart of the Azure Fortress sect, had been its foundation, centuries of tradition and martial depth, now stripped bare. As his eyes scanned the lines of text again, the weight of what he had uncovered became more evident. The Black Death Alliance Fortress had not been the original home of these teachings. Before Giljan's rule, this space had belonged to the Azure Fortress sect, a lineage rich with history. The sect had once stood tall, proud of its achievements and martial prowess. Yet now, in the cold shadows of its downfall, the remnants of its legacy lay scattered, discarded. Every book, every scroll of their traditions had been abandoned, leaving only the writings of Giljun himself. Yeon-Myeong's lips curled into a faint sneer as he reflected on the arrogance that had driven Giljun to reject the vast heritage of the sect. Truly, such immense arrogance, he thought, to discard centuries of martial knowledge, all for the sake of his own self-serving philosophy, was the epitome of pride. But as the thought lingered in his mind, a sharp realization broke through. He quickly dismissed his earlier judgment. No, Yeon-Myeong corrected himself, his tone growing colder. It wasn't arrogance, but something far more shallow. The techniques of the Azure Fortress sect, the very foundation of their martial arts, couldn't even fill 10 volumes. The so-called greatness of those who once held themselves above others, belittling all who dared challenge them, amounted to nothing. In the aftermath of the Black Death Alliance's defeat, the Sichuan Tang clan turned its focus toward restoring order to their war-torn region. Amid this fragile recovery, a storm of conflict brewed in Qinghai. The demonic cult, a formidable organization with aspirations to expand into the Central Plains, clashed fiercely with the Kunlun sect, determined to halt their advance. The battle quickly escalated into a full-scale war, drawing the attention of martial factions across the realm. At the heart of Kunlun's defense stood Elder Gakun, known as the Kunlun Demon Immortal. A master of the fire realm and infamous for his merciless techniques, Gakun became the vanguard against the demonic cult's relentless forces. His fiery assaults, paired with his indomitable will, formed the bedrock of Kunlun's resistance. Yet, the demonic cult's sheer numbers, a colossal force rivaling the combined strength of the 9 great sects, began to overwhelm even Kunlun's finest. The tide of battle seemed inevitable, with Kunlun's lines wavering under the cult's ceaseless assault. Then, as hope dimmed, the long-awaited reinforcements arrived. The Joint Sect, a coalition of powerful martial factions, sent their elite warriors, spearheaded by the revered Fire Realm Master Tihyo, the Sword Saint. Alongside them marched a contingent of Tang clan warriors, a beacon of hope from Sichuan's resilient stronghold. The battlefield shifted with the convergence of these mighty forces. The combined strength of Gakun, Tihyo, and their respective armies brought a renewed vigor to the fray. Fire blazed, steel clashed, and the demonic cult, sensing the united strength arrayed against them, retreated to regroup. The righteous factions, for the first time, glimpsed the possibility of turning the war in their favor. However, beneath the surface of this newfound unity lay a treacherous undercurrent, one that would unravel the tenuous balance. Among the Tang clan reinforcements was an individual whose motives were darker than the shadows cast by the cult itself. Hidden beneath their allegiance was a twisted nature, a capacity for betrayal that would soon come to light. Amidst the chaos of war, as alliances were forged in blood and fire, the unthinkable unfolded. The betrayer, veiled in the guise of camaraderie, struck when least expected. The flames of betrayal engulfed the battlefield, undoing the fragile unity. Comrades turned against one another, the righteous factions splintered, and the balance they had worked so desperately to achieve shattered in an instant. In a dimly lit forge, the rhythmic clang of a hammer against heated steel echoed through the air. The blacksmith worked tirelessly at his anvil. His mind, however, was far from the task at hand. Earlier that day, an encounter had left him both startled and intrigued. His thoughts lingered on the unexpected proposal that had been presented to him, an invitation to serve as a smith for the illustrious Tang clan. The sheer honor of the offer warred with the disbelief that it had been extended to him, an unassuming craftsman far removed from the grandeur of martial clans. Blacksmith's initial shock gradually gave way to cautious acceptance. Yet a question burned in his mind, one he could not suppress. Turning his eyes toward the blade at Yeon-Myeong's side, or rather, where a blade should have been, he hesitated before voicing his concern. The absence of the famed demon-slaying sword, a weapon of legend, struck him as peculiar. Such a blade was not one to be easily parted with. Yeon-Myeong's response came with a mixture of nonchalance and subtle regret. The blacksmith's eyes widened as her words sank in. The legendary demon-slaying sword, a symbol of power and history, was no more. It had broken. The blacksmith resumed his steady rhythm, hammering the glowing iron on the anvil. A pang of sorrow rippled through him, not only for the blade itself but for the legacy it represented. His master's final masterpiece, a weapon forged with unmatched skill and imbued with the intent to combat evil, was no more. Yet, amidst the sadness, a sense of pride tempered his grief. The sword had fulfilled its purpose with an unyielding resolve, its destruction not in vain but in triumph. Images of the Black Death Alliance leader flashed in his mind, a foe so fearsome that even the mention of their name had once sent shivers down the spines of warriors. And yet, the demon-slaying sword had prevailed, cutting through the darkness and delivering a blow that sealed their fate. That weapon, wrought with his master's blood, sweat, and soul, had been instrumental in sending that formidable adversary to the afterlife. Yeon-Myeong approached the blacksmith's humble workshop with purpose, his presence commanding attention as he crossed the threshold. In his hands, he carried an object wrapped in thick cloth, its peculiar shape hinting at something extraordinary. The air inside the workshop was heavy with the tang of molten metal and the rhythmic clang of hammer on anvil, but it fell silent as Yeon-Myeong entered. The blacksmith, a seasoned craftsman known for his unparalleled skill, paused his work to regard the unexpected visitor. His eyes, sharp from years of meticulous work, quickly flicked to the bundle Yeon-Myeong carried.